sees the release of Hellraiser III, Hell on Earth. Yes, Pinhead, the Black Prince of Hell, is back, released from the underworld to wreak havoc on the realm of the living.
And this time, it's going to be Hell on Earth. Presents Hellraiser III, Hell on Earth.
Arriving on Earth inside a grotesque brass statue, the Pillar of Souls, Pinhead is trapped in a deep slumber. The monstrous effigy is quickly snapped up by nasty nightclub owner J.P. Monroe when he spots it in a curio shop and takes it home. All is well until he accidentally drops some blood on it, which stirs Pinhead from his sleep.
Oh, how touching. That is the gun you used to kill your parents. Oh, I understand. Their fortune was so tempting, their affection so conditional. What else could you do? Now, can we talk sensibly?
Alive, but still trapped in the statue, Pinhead is hungry for the human blood, which will ultimately release him from his prison. So he cuts a deal with his greedy savior, human sacrifices for rewards beyond compare. A couple of sacrifices later, he breaks free from hell and proceeds to terrorize the streets.
Come on! Come on!
Thou shalt not bow down before any graven image. I am the way.
If you're a fan of horror, which admittedly I'm not, then Hellraiser 3 doesn't put a foot wrong. Easily the best of the three, it is to Hellraiser what Aliens was to Alien. And with the cinematic death last year of that other classic horror villain, Freddy, Pinhead is definitely the new heir to the horror throne. And as if to prove my point, there are plans for another 3 Hellraiser movies. Don't these guys ever know when to quit?
Jesus Christ!
Not quite.
And can you believe it? I've been brave enough to let Pinhead into the studio with me. Next thing you know, I'll be skydiving. Mind you, he is in the infinitely less horrific guise of Doug Bradley. Doug, you've been playing Pinhead since the first Hellraiser film. There are now obviously 3. How do you explain his kind of meteoric rise to the important position he's in today in Hellraiser 3?
Well, it took us all by surprise, because, I mean, going back to the first Hellraiser film, where you find him not even called Pinhead, credited as lead Cenobite and buried way down the credits somewhere. And if I'd been paid any less on Hellraiser, I think I would have been classed as an extra.
Do you think in a way that Pinhead's a predecessor of someone like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, you know, because of the sort of Shakespearean import of his speaking?
There are similarities between the characters. I mean, I think Lecter is very much almost like a dark side of Sherlock Holmes, and there's a similar kind of aspect with Pinhead. The intelligence and the black wit that the two have very much, and a great self-consciousness, a great self-awareness of what they're doing and why they're doing it, and enjoying playing the games.
What is it about the Hellraiser films that you think sort of captured the public's imagination?
Hellraiser determinedly brought back in a Gothic strand, not the kind of Gothic that we're seeing in Coppola's Dracula, which is recreation of 19th century Gothic, but a kind of punk Gothic that Clive put in the image of the Cenobites, with leather and hooks and pins and chains. And it was a movie full of unsettling ideas. It was an ideas movie in a lot of ways. And those were ideas which have unsettled people and disturbed people, but have also very strongly struck a chord with the audience that came to see the movies.
There were some particularly violent scenes. in the Hellraiser movies. How do you feel about violence in films?
Violent deaths are common and garden in cinema. I mean, horror gets accused of being a violent genre. By comparison with the war movie or the Western, movies like Goodfellas, The Godfather, there really are no more violent than those movies, with the
exception of the club scene.
that it's being done in a fantasy context. This is make-believe. This is not real.
Where were we?
And for all you die-hard Hellraiser fans out there, Video Collection are re-releasing the original movie on widescreen format this week. You can see it in its original gory glory. And there's great news for collectors. The tape also includes a special Clive Barker feature, The Art of Horror, so good value all round.
Pain and pleasure, indivisible.
The trademark of the Hellraiser series is undoubtedly its incredible makeup effects. So it was nice to discover that they were dreamed up by British company Image Animation. We caught up with veteran makeup designer Bob Keane at Pinewood to find out just what it takes to create those effects for the screen.
Hello. What we have here is an animatronic head, which is basically a foam latex skin, which has been artworked in the head, over the top of a fiberglass underskull. A cable mechanism has been attached to the underskull, so you get snarls and grins and all different other movements, which are cable produced, which is similar to a brake cable, except without the brake blocks and the wheels. It's just a push-pull. So when the levers are pushed forward, you get a grin, or pulled back, you get a snarl, or twist it, you get like grins and all different other movements.
The first thing that happens at Image Animation is obviously the script. You can do a little bit of work without a script, but without a script, you're lost. So the first thing you look for is the special effects in the script. So the script will come in and it will be marked up in a series of just where you think an effect is. And quite often you can get what you think is an effect wrong. It's just into interpretation. If it's a creature that's going to be solely created from something we've come up with and we're going to do something that doesn't have to have a human features, then the sky's the limit. We can start opening it up, and the full-size sculpt will be sculpted up almost immediately. We'll make a steel armature, and then over that, the sculpt will happen. Then there's a whole bunch of technical things happening. We have to mould either version of the creatures. It has to be moulded. At the same time, someone will be thinking about the mechanics to go inside these creatures, the eyelid movements, the blinks, the eyebrows, what movements they will need, how best to portray those movements to the outside world.
We put a bowl cap on the actor, grease down his eyebrows, and leave the nose area free and cover the entire head in alginate. That's strengthened with plaster bandage. When that's gone off, we carefully remove it, seal up the seam at the back that you leave, and you fill it with plaster. When the plaster's dry, you've got an almost perfect copy of the actor.
You're then sort of chasing two areas. You've now started two areas off. The mould making will be finished, the mechanics will be underway, and the foam, which is foam rubber, which is the basis of our entire creatures, is the skin. If we didn't have foam rubber, we'd be in major trouble because there's nothing as soft and as stretchy as foam. Nothing moves like skin as much like it.
The box. You opened it. We came.
It's just a puzzle box!
Oh no. It is a means to summon us.
Who are you?
Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
On average, we get 2 months now, 8 weeks prep on a movie. Now, sometimes that could be plenty, but when you're doing a movie like Hellraiser 3, when there are over 300 different effects in the film, that can be nowhere near enough time. So you're constantly approaching the film when the point you start shooting, you're still prepping the film. Now, sometimes that's okay. With most films, that's fine, because there's a lead-in time where there's no effects, or there's very little effects. With a film like Hellraiser 3, there was never a single day of shooting there wasn't an effect. Our blood formula is syrup, similar to golden syrup, which you can buy in a can, food colouring, and the smallest amount of something like fairy liquid, detergent. Now, that's it. You can buy that anywhere in the world. On the question of is there anywhere you can go or do that's too much, definitely yes. I'm into the fantasy market and the fantasy films. When I make a Hellraiser film, it's about a group of people who come from hell out of a small box. It's not about real killers in the real world. So if the question is, are there any limits? The answer is yes.
We'll tear your soul apart.
And this week, it seems, we just